Happy Friday, everyone. How are you? Hey, Mark, where you been? How's it going? Uh, I wanted to
Where
come
you
on.
been?
Oh, I gotta turn my volume off. I wanted to come on and talk more about this Loranger case. Did I say it right, Barbara? When you come in, I know you're going to tell me. This is the horrible case of the Brunett homicides. Their funeral was yesterday. I thought we'd read on the obituary. I want to hear from what the DA said about today about the indictments and also kind of go back over that original press conference that they had at the sheriff's office. There's a lot of questions up in the air about who's gonna who's gonna charge him with what. I mean, you've got Mississippi involved, you've got the feds involved, and you've also got Louisiana involved. They have not yet said where the death of her child occurred. And a lot of people, Laranja, thank you, Barbara. It's Laranja. They have not said exactly where the baby was unalived. I think it was in Mississippi. Just listening to these conferences, we're going to listen to them now. But if you listen closely, it just seems like there's no way Mississippi could have pulled these charges in if the babies had not been, or the baby had not been unalived there. So, with that being said, Jean, thank you so much. Jean's been sending me some emails, so I wanted to thank you for doing that on this case. I know you guys are really wanting to hear more about it. Let's get to this press conference with the DA in over in, all right, how do you pronounce this? Tangipahoa? Did I say that right, Barbara? Tangipahoa Parish. This is in Louisiana. Let's get to this part.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about the delay. It took a little bit longer than we thought. My name is District Attorney Scott Pearlou. I am the District Attorney for the 21st Judicial District here in Tangipahoa Parish. Behind me is Assistant District Attorney Matthew Belser. He and I were in the grand jury proceedings this morning. The grand jury heard from two witnesses regarding this matter this morning and returned true bill indictments. First, against Daniel Wayne Callihan, 9/13/87 date of birth. The grand jury reported true bill indictments, 2 counts of first-degree murder for the murder of Callie Brunett and the murder of Erin Brunett, 1 count of aggravated kidnapping of a child, and 1 count of second-degree kidnapping. With respect to Victoria Cox, the grand jury returned true bill indictments of 1 count of first-degree murder, 1 count of aggravated kidnapping of a child, 1 count of second-degree kidnapping of a child, and 1 count of accessory after the fact to first-degree murder. We presented testimony, lasted about 2 hours. As I said, the grand jury heard from 2 members of law enforcement regarding the investigation, and the indictments, which I've referred to, were returned. We hope to have Mr. Callihan and Mr. Cox and Mrs. Cox here for arraignment at some point in the near future. When, I can't tell you, but that's our hope, to have that done as soon as possible. Questions?
What have the conversations been with the other prosecutors in this case, and where do things stand working for the folks in Mississippi and the federal government?
I have spoken to the district attorney's office in Jackson, Mississippi. Also had a couple of discussions with the United States attorney in the Eastern District here in Louisiana, New Orleans. I'm not aware of their plans. I take that back. The U.S. attorney has indicated they are willing to and want to, I think, prosecute this matter in some respect. I'm not sure about Mississippi. We just felt like, and I still feel strongly that this is the place where this needs to be handled initially. If we are done and it wants to be done other places, that is of course at their discretion. But this involves, first of all, it originated here. It involves local people here, and I feel strongly that this community deserves the right to have it ultimately resolved and decided here. Yes, ma'am.
Just when it comes to when they'll be extradited back to Louisiana, Callihan and Cotton, any word on that?
No word on that. The indictments obviously are just happening, so that'll all be pursued and followed up on as soon as possible.
Do you believe the child was killed in Louisiana?
Do I believe the child was killed in Louisiana? I really don't want to answer specific questions about the facts. I mean, we feel like, we feel like obviously the investigation and the indictments that followed are appropriately charged. And we think that we have the, sufficient facts, obviously sufficient factual background and support to support the indictments.
Can you speak about the difference between the aggravated kidnapping charge and the second-degree kidnapping? What's the significance of the difference there?
There's just different elements of the crime. That's all. I'll let Mr. Belser maybe address that in a second.
Is there anyone else like the Brunett family know about how you'll go about this case?
I have spoken to the family on a couple of occasions, and they're aware of what we're doing. I'll say that much.
What, in your overall tenure that you've had as district attorney, put this in perspective to what it means to you as the chief prosecutor in this parish and to you as a citizen of Tangipahoa. Maybe just kind of give us some context and some perspective on your part.
As to what?
About the horrific nature of this crime in the overall context of your career and what it means in this community.
Well, a lot of the facts have been reported by you guys, and obviously, if this happened anywhere, it would be horrific and tragic. Happening where it did, it's a quiet community. These things don't happen like this very often here, so it's an extremely significant matter. I would expect it's devastating. I know it's devastating to the family, and I think the community, particularly in the Loranger area, which is a small community where everyone is aware of everyone around them. This is difficult to comprehend and accept. And look, we are certainly mindful of that. Wish it didn't happen, but here we are, and we all have a job to do at this part. Law enforcement, a couple of members are here today, have done their part, still working on this. I want to send out just a great gratitude for what their efforts have been in doing this. Put in a lot of work, and they're still working on it. So it's a big deal, obviously.
To what extent did his confession publicly play a role in what transpired today?
Confessions are evidence. I mean, we're about evidence, so it played a role.
And I mean, it took more than 2 hours for you all to come back. It started at 9 this morning. You all going before the grand jury. If you could talk about just those conversations that were held,
No, held in the grand jury, I cannot do that. By law, I cannot do that.
Scott, how do you think this is going to play out, though, eventually deciding jurisdiction? I mean, it seems like that's going to be is that going to be a lengthy, complicated process?
Fair question. It's involved at this point. Hopefully, everyone will get to the table and have a seat at the table. That's fine, and work this out, for what's best for a just result. And hopefully that'll happen. That's my hopes that will happen. The various agencies that have a role in this or may believe they have a role, hopefully we can discuss it and again, move this matter as efficiently as we can. And I think that's important for the community and the family.
Do you think that the feds will get the first opportunity to prosecute these two?
Not if I can help it.
You would like to come here first?
Absolutely. And for my reasons I stated earlier, I think it should be that way. And I've expressed that to the U.S. Attorney, and he's been very gracious in his discussions and expressed his willingness to work with us on this. I'm not saying he's wants to take a second position. I won't speak for him, but we have discussed it, and he's been very, very professional with it.
and at this time you can't confirm if 4-year-old Erin Brunett was killed in Louisiana, or you just won't talk about that?
I just would prefer not to open that up and talk about that.
Are you going to aim for the death penalty with these first 3 murder charges?
That decision has not fully been made yet. It is subject, obviously, the indicted offenses do carry the death penalty as a penalty. This could be capital cases. I would just like the opportunity to have more of a discussion with the family about this, that particular issue on the death penalty. Again, it's not all about me. I want to talk to the family. And I think in fairness, we should wait for the entire investigative file to come from law enforcement and the different agencies involved and review that before we make a decision. It's a big decision. I have my thoughts on it, but I'd rather not share those right now, but there's time to do that later.
To what role, I mean, he publicly asked to kill me, essentially. So to what role did that play in his decision at defending?
And what decision? I'm sorry.
The death penalty decision, well, I'm not even gonna push for that.
What, you're asking me what he said, what he supposedly said or did say was on camera?
Publicly, he wants the death penalty, that he is actively
Yeah.
asking to be killed as a result of these crimes. So what role does that play in your decision?
None, none.
How important is it for you to make sure this case doesn't drag out?
I'd like to think that's important in every case. Again, a lot of those issues and delays are outside of our control. But obviously, in any case, I think any prosecutor will tell you that delay doesn't really help a prosecution. We would like it to move as quickly as we can, but there's going to be a lot of work involved in this, particularly if it's a capital case. That makes it more prolonged and protracted with pretrial discovery and various other issues.
When are you first, I'm sorry, when are you hoping to get Cox and Callihan back here in Tangipahoa and put them before the judge to arraign them on?
Well, I like to do it as soon as possible, but he is apparently located, as law enforcement tells me, in another state right now, being detained. So he has some rights with respect to being sent back to another state. He can waive those rights, and that would make it a lot faster process. We'll see how that happens. But
Scott, what would be the process, if you could lay out the process to get him back here from Jackson?
well, they'll be notified that there's a warrant issued as a result of the indictments today, and there are processes between the various states that we use, and they will use in the event he does not wish to waive his rights or waive extradition back here, where he's entitled to a hearing to determine if these charges are valid and if he's the proper person to be charged. And that's a little bit of a process to go through that with signatures, different channels, different agencies, and so that could take some time.
Could Mississippi fight it?
Could Mississippi fight it? You mean the agencies prosecuting or law enforcement?
Yeah, no, if they want first crack at him, could they say block him coming back to Kansas?
They could say it. I'm sure they could try it. And
Will we be
while he's physically, and again, this goes back to, I hope it doesn't come to a turf battle such as that over who gets what first. But certainly, I would hope it would be handled professionally, and the end result would be what's in the best interest of this prosecution for the families and the communities involved.
If it does become a turf battle, and for whatever reason they say we want to hold him here, do you have any recourse at that point?
I don't know.
Okay.
To that point, how would you describe your conversations? Have they been productive with the other prosecutors? Would you say that they're willing to work with you on this, or how would you explain?
Yes, I think they've been productive and again, professional, and we may disagree on some things, but again, particularly with respect to the U.S. Attorney in New Orleans, he's been very, very nice and professional. Listen to my side of this and my points, and I don't want to speak for him, but I will leave it that there's been good discussions, and again, we don't have to agree all the time, but hopefully it'll work out.
And when it comes to the timeline of events, we now know that Callie Brunett was actually killed on Wednesday morning. The children kidnapped Wednesday morning. Did that play any role in the charges today and how you all went about the charges today?
I'm not sure I understand.
Just the fact that, maybe the crimes could have been, when it comes to the kidnapping, the children being taken to, Jackson, Mississippi, the crime maybe being committed there when it comes to the younger girl. Does that play a role in what happened today?
Well, it all plays a role. If I understand you, it all plays a role. I mean, those are a lot of the facts that have been reported by the media. I won't dispute them. So yeah, it played a role. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
Did you watch his confession?
I did not. I did not.
Are you, do you expect this case to go to trial, or are you hoping for the sake of community and the family that they plead guilty?
I'm sorry, what?
That they plead guilty?
That's not my decision. Your question is what I hope he would?
Yes.
Well, it would be a lot easier if all people charged with a crime would plead guilty. So I'll leave it at that. Yeah, if he would, but not, that doesn't happen very often in my experience.
We have a question from a viewer. Could Tangipahoa afford a first-degree murder trial? Meaning that it's a very expensive proposition and it's hard. It's hard to do a death penalty case, and we haven't done it in a while.
Yes, I mean, that comes under not really my problem, but I'm not insensitive to it, but that is not a reason to, I would suggest not a reason to pursue it as a capital case if that's the decision made.
We could do it.
Absolutely.
Circling around on the comment, I don't know if the gentleman behind you is in a position to answer questions, but the difference between the aggravated kidnapping count versus the second degree kidnapping count, what might be the significance of the difference?
Matthew, you want to address that?
Matthew Belzer, with the District Attorney's Office. In regards to that, there are different elements that are at play with each of those charges. Also, there are different sentences. Aggravated kidnapping of a child obviously carries a mandatory life sentence. In regards to the second degree kidnapping, one of those elements is when a victim is physically or sexually abused. We do not feel like we have jurisdiction over some of the events that happen in Mississippi, but we do feel like this allows us to at least bring that in as an element to the charges that we have here. And so that is the strategy that we have taken in regards to the charge.
In Mississippi, obviously, they're both charged with sexual battery. Do we have any reason to believe that there was sexual battery here in Louisiana?
As prosecutors, we're very limited on what kind of statements we can make pre-trial in regards to the facts of the case. I would have to defer that to the trial on the merits.
Scott, when's the last time you prosecuted a capital murder case here in Tangipahoa?
In Tangipahoa, I don't recall. In the district, insofar as our office, I would think the last one that went through indictment and all the way through trial was State versus Gerald Bordelon, is my recollection. And that was in 2008, 2009, maybe.
But in Tangipahoa, you had not.
I don't recall. It's been a while. Quite frankly, it's been a while. I'm good. I'm good. All right. Appreciate it.
Okay, that was the first one. Let's see. Yeah, thank you, Barbara, for bringing that to my attention because I did not realize that there was an online memorial option for her. So I appreciate that. I do have, in fact, let me pull this up. Her funeral was, well, let me read it to y'all. The service was, let's see if it was here, 20th. Her service and funeral was held yesterday at 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to read this to you guys, what it says in her memorial. Callie Brunett of Loranger, Louisiana, passed away on Wednesday, June the 12th of 2024 at the age of 35. She graduated from Loranger High School and was a member of the flag team. She also attended Hammond Technical School for barbering and medical technology. She loved being a country girl, going to Old Farmer's Day, and being in Loranger. She was a loving daughter, sister, and aunt, but she loved being a mom most of all. Callie Jo and her daughters were a couple of peas in a pod. Her daughters looked up to her and loved her so much. She is survived by her daughter and her parents and grandmother and aunt. She has a sibling. She has a couple of siblings and some nieces and nephews. I'm not going to name them all on a live stream. So She was preceded in death by her daughter, Erin, her grandfather, and a nephew. So there's an online contribution area that you can, if you wanted to, well, it's a online guest book. If you wanted to go in, you could do that. And I put that up on the stream. Please, I'm sure there's nobody that would take advantage of saying anything horrible, but God forbid. There's a GoFundMe page for the family, but I'm going to be honest, you guys, I don't feel comfortable putting up GoFundMes when I don't know enough about them. There's been too many crazy ones out there that just aren't legit. So even though it is on her memorial page, I've known those to not be right too. So we'll just go away from that. All right. So that's that piece. You know, talking about, there's a lawyer that was interviewed here recently about this Daniel guy and how this is going to play out, I guess. He has confessed. Well, he confessed on camera. We saw that. And the attorney has said it is an egregious murder, as you can imagine. And so it's one that is a death penalty eligible. He was 36 years old. He was blamed, and he's blamed medication, and then also said that he had mood disorders. The professional attorney said that clearly this will all be that his defense lawyers will have to work with is either that he was insane at the time of committing these offenses and thus should not be guilty by reason of insanity, or even if he is guilty, his impaired mental condition could be a mitigating factor, mitigating against a death sentence and in favor of a life sentence. I don't think he's not against a 3-year-old. I just don't see it happening, you guys. Louisiana's tough. And I'm fixing to get into some of that. For what I did, lethal injection is easiest thing for me. That's what he said. Easiest thing for him. The attorney also said that if a defendant has done a heinous act, has brutally murdered an innocent victim, and he wants the death penalty, it's often not hard to find a jury to give him what he wants. Now, Victoria Cox has not spoken to any of reporters. And we're still unsure exactly what her play in all this was. Now, as you'll see on the banner that I've got rolling, I've got what their charges are against them. Cox's was 1 count each of first-degree murder, accessory after the fact, aggravating kidnapping of a child, and second-degree kidnapping. She, as we've read before, she did live down the street from them, and we believe that she's involved from the beginning. I don't know if her and this guy were, hooking up or doing drugs together. There's still a lot of unknowns, and the feds have put a gag order on the case, so it's going to be hard to find out anything before the trial starts. Let's go over to this other one. This is a press conference that I had missed, and it was issued about 6 days ago by the sheriff's office, but I did find it to be very interesting, so I'd like to watch it with you guys. It's not too long.
Good afternoon. After the press conference that I held yesterday, I wanted you to know that the law enforcement, namely our sheriff's office, obtained some information that an adult female was with Callihan and the 2 minor children at some point, I think on Wednesday, in Jackson, Mississippi, in a motel. So obviously we passed that information along to our partners in Jackson and gave them that information. They followed that up. They went to the motel. They found Victoria Cox, age 33, I believe. She was detained by them, and they began their investigation of her. Also, late yesterday evening, Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office had detectives in Jackson, Mississippi. We did interview Callihan pretty extensively. He did agree to talk and did talk with us. So we got a complete statement from him late yesterday. Obviously, once that was done, we turned our attention, made it a priority to learn more about what role Victoria Cox may have played in this particular ordeal. That is, when did she and Callihan meet up? Where did they meet up? What did she witness? What did she do? And so those are the things that obviously we need to determine. And only thing I can tell you as relates to that is that we have not finished our questioning of her. When we do finish our questioning of her, we may be in a position to give you more information about what potential charges she could be facing by us. Also, I'm sure we got a lot of questions, but I'm sure you know that anytime you have a young victim, such as a 6-year-old, that requires specialized skill and training to be able to interview those and to be able to interrogate and get statements from them. So we have scheduled a time and a place for that interview to take place. It will be soon. I'm not going to give the date or the location for that, but just know that that's in the works, that we will have an extensive interview of our 6-year-old victim. Obviously, we're waiting on autopsy reports. It will be one will be in Jackson, Mississippi. One will also be in Tangipahoa Parish. At this time, the Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office is obtaining warrants on Callihan for first-degree murder of Callie Brunett, 2 counts of aggravated kidnapping and armed robbery. That occurred all in Tangipahoa Parish. Mississippi has indicated that they will charge him as well with the murder of Erin Brunett, age 4. Victoria Cox, at this time, I think either has or will be charged by Jackson, Mississippi. I don't have the particulars on what they plan on charging her with. I do know that once we finish questioning her, we will be placing some charges on her as well. But the exact nature of those charges or what they will be at this time is not yet to be disclosed. So another thing I would like to say, I don't mind y'all trying to get follow-up information. You have a right to do it. The public has a right to do it, but we're not going to do this piecemeal. We will only give these kind of updates when there's meaningful information to pass along. So with that, if you have a few questions that I can answer, I'll certainly try to do that. Yes.
Sure. I know there were multiple agencies involved in this, but who is taking the lead in this investigation? Is it the Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office, Jackson PD, FBI? Who's leading this investigation? You
left out one, all of the above. Right, and it could be that it's going to be all of the above. You could have a situation where our DA's office takes over and takes the lead on what happened in Tangipahoa Parish, where Jackson, Mississippi takes over what happened there, and you could simultaneously have the feds come in and exercise their jurisdiction as well. And I don't think those answers have been worked out yet.
Sheriff,
yes.
You said your investigators had the chance to actually speak to Callihan, to sit down with him. Did you get any kind of more information on what his potential motives could have been for committing this heinous crime?
No. As far as motives, no, I don't think we learned any motives for it. The only thing I will say at this time is even though we had an extremely strong case, about this time yesterday, we have a much stronger case today because we spoke to him. That's not all I can comment on. But as far as a motive, no, I don't think he did. And I don't think he possibly could. And I don't think any of us can ever determine what a motive for this particular type of crime would be.
What about the role of human trafficking?
At this time, I have no information that human trafficking played a part in this. I know that was some speculation yesterday by the Jackson Police Department, maybe coming to their assistant chief, but nothing has been shown to me to substantiate that. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm not in a position to say that I know anything about that.
Sheriff, suspects who are accomplices here?
I'm sorry?
Any other suspects from here?
I can say at this time, we're not focused on anybody else as it relates to the crimes that happened in Tangipahoa Parish, other than the 2 names that you have before you, Victoria Cox and Daniel Callihan.
Sheriff, you mentioned armed robbery. Can you go into details what that was about?
Well, we know that he took some personal items from the home and from the person that he killed. We do know that he would have been armed with a dangerous weapon, and so the elements would fit.
You also mentioned Victoria Cox was in a motel on Wednesday. Can you kind of describe the timeline as far as when he abducted the girls and then when the mom was killed?
This is a great question. I can't give you any certainty of when it was. We believe it was certainly before yesterday, and we don't think it all occurred yesterday. We believe it probably occurred sometime on Wednesday. And again, that's part of the reason of wanting to question, her to see what she has to say about giving us a timeline. We do have a timeline from him, and we want to get both of them and see if they match.
Sheriff, was a missing persons report filed on Wednesday night for the
yes.
moms and for the kids?
Yes.
Can you provide some more context around that so the deputies go out there and check the home?
I don't know that. I could easily find that out. I know that we took the missing persons report. And I know at that time that her being Callie's parents, we know that they were concerned, but they were not alarmed, as in obviously what happened. They did not expect that to have happened. They just wanted to report to us that they had not seen her. And that was a little unusual. And so we did take the missing persons report. I don't know what time it was, but it was late in the evening on Wednesday. Yes.
Sheriff, as for that Amber Alert that came out delayed, the LSP came out and gave a timeline, and in that timeline, they said there was an incomplete Amber Alert application from the sheriff's office here. Kind of give me some in-depth from your side on just what happened on that timeline and what y'all learned more now that it's been a day, and what kind of went wrong with this Amber Alert.
Well, I told you yesterday that it's something that needs to be looked into, and it has to be looked into, and will be looked into. To say that we provide an incomplete form, I don't think that's an accurate portrayal. I don't want to get a tit for tat with our partners who we work closely with. But if you look at the form, all of the information that's asked for is contained on there. And I know that we reached out and asked a couple of times what's taking so long. They never told us there's incomplete or missing information. That's not what was given to us. They said they were doing everything they could to move as quickly as they could. So, yes.
I know you say Callihan murdered her. Do you know Callihan confessed as of now?
What I'm prepared to say is our case is stronger after interviewing him than before.
Sheriff, where would
Yes.
these suspects be kept? Are they going to be in Rankin County or exactly?
That's a really good question. So let me back up and say this, because the easiest way to answer the question as it relates to Victoria Cox, unless we show that she committed a crime in Tangipahoa Parish, then we wouldn't have a right to hold her anyhow, right? So she's going to, and the fact that they've indicated that they are going to charge her, so they will keep her. As it relates to Callihan, we know that both Mississippi and Louisiana are going to charge her. So, how does that work? He has to be, extradited here, but at the same time, they have a right to finish their charge before they do that. So this is going to take, significant coordination between our prosecutor's office and the prosecutor's office in Mississippi.
Sheriff, can you give any more information on the relationship between Callihan and Cox? Did Cox have any ties to Tangipahoa Parish? Was she known to TPSO?
I don't know if she was known to TPSO. I don't think she has an extensive history. I say that, I could be wrong, but I don't think she does. But yes, she is from the Tangipahoa Parish area. The relationship there, I believe that she and Callihan have been intimately involved recently.
And do you know whether TPSO had any history going to this home, responding to calls at this home?
I don't know that. I don't know that. We can run a check and see, but nothing stands out as calls coming from there before.
Sure. You've been able to identify Callahan's history with TPSO, his criminal record?
Callihan has an extensive criminal history, primarily for burglaries, some aggravated burglaries, some drug charges, some, I think, probation parole violations. I mean, he was certainly known to us. He was a suspect in some burglaries recently. This is obviously before the homicides that he committed. And, we've even questioned him about those as well. So yeah, he was someone that was on our radar that we had dealt with before.
We're also hearing about something that happened recently where a shed was set on fire. We were talking to neighbors who said that Callihan was responsible for that. Can you confirm those details and talk about that a little?
I can't confirm those details. I know that one of my detectives in passing said that he may be responsible for an arson, which would fit that definition. But as far as whether or not that would be the shed you're talking about, whether it matches the time and date, the location, I would not know that at this point in time. It's certainly important to know, but what we're focusing on right now, is mostly trying to close out as best we can these homicides and aggravated kidnappings.
And considering all you just said about Callihan, is this a person that should have been on the street?
Well, it's a person. Obviously, you don't want on the street, but now, that will take time as well to go back and see. I don't know the last time he was in jail. I don't know when he got out. I know that he's, he has been committed to the Department of Corrections before. But I don't know, did he get out early? Did he do a full sentence? I don't know any of those things at this time, but it wouldn't be hard to look into.
Sheriff, Jackson PD said that they were able to ping the vehicle using license plate readers in Mississippi. Does Louisiana have the same technology?
So we do have the same, I can't say the same technology, because I don't know what they have. We have license plate readers. I can tell you that we ran our own license plate readers as well. We had them run in Mississippi. We requested that they ran them, and we were aware that vehicle being in the area of Byram in Jackson, Mississippi. We knew that, yesterday.
Has there been any update on how Ms. Brunett died? What the cause of death was?
No, there's been no, it's one of those things. There's no question how she died law enforcement if you were there, if you saw it, or if you were the coroner's office, but we are going to wait for the autopsy report to come back. I can tell you it was very brutal.
Considering these crimes against Mr. Callihan, do you think DA Jackson will seek or should seek the death penalty in this case?
Well, having been a prosecutor before, you know that decision rests with the prosecutor's office. But you asked me what I thought. What I think, based on all the evidence we have to date, and we're still gathering more, and what I think in relation to the statement that he gave yesterday, and you add everything up, that if you believe in the death penalty and you're a supporter of the death penalty, I don't know how you can believe that this is not an appropriate case to charge someone and try to get the death penalty.
And I have to ask, have you spoken to the grandparents since yesterday? What is the family saying? How's the family feeling right now?
I have not spoken to them since yesterday. I did speak to them on yesterday. But, I can assure you they're overwhelmed. I mean, obviously they're grief-stricken. They have a lot on their plate to digest. And even though they're grieving the loss of their daughter and the loss of their granddaughter, they're also, I think, trying to come to terms and make adaptations or whatever you have to do to raise, another grandchild, and to not just raise her, but to, I think, help make sure she gets all the services and the counseling and support that she possibly can. So I cannot imagine what all they're going through at this time.
And I have to go back to the Amber Alert. I mean, do you think if that Amber Alert was issued earlier, that could have been a different outcome? I mean, we talking about 3 hours from when the application was submitted to when the Amber Alert went out.
Right. That is correct. Your timeline is correct. I would say that I don't know. Certainly you always want to go out as soon as possible, but I don't know from a time standpoint what time they actually located Callihan yesterday. I mean, I don't know the exact time of that, but it certainly, in hindsight, we wished it had gone out sooner. That's the only thing I can say.
Do you have any more details on the injuries to the 6-year-old?
I do not. And then, keep in mind, if I did, I never like talking about injuries to victims in general. When you talk about injuries to a 6-year-old, it just makes it even more problematic to try to delve off into that. I would say this: I haven't been made aware of what I would say is significant physical injury, like broken bones and things like that. But any other thing that she could be dealing with, I just wouldn't want to comment on.
And for clarity purposes, can you confirm the age of the younger child? Was she 3? Was she 4? We were hearing like a birthday in October.
No, I can't confirm. I mean, it would take me probably a matter of moments to give you a date of birth, and then we could actually, figure it out. But I can't let you hear, was she 3 or was she 4?
And another question, just for clarity, Callihan was not the father of either of these 2 children?
So it's our understanding that he was not the father. Nobody believed him, in the family to be the father. DNA obviously hasn't been done yet, right? But we don't believe he was the father. No one believes he was the father of these 2 children.
And I have to ask, I know it's still early in the investigation, but do we know what kind of weapon was used on Miss Brunett? Was it a gun used? Was it a blunt force object? I mean, do you know at this point?
I do know what kind it was, and I'm gonna wait till the autopsy comes out, and then we will go from there. I do know what kind it was. It was a dangerous weapon, I will tell you that. And not trying to be cute, but there's obviously a couple of different kinds. You have guns and you have knives. So,
Jeff, do you know if there's been communication between DA's office here and DA's office in Jackson as to how they're going to work out this jurisdiction? Have those talks begun?
The only thing I know is that the DA's office has been in contact with our office, and they are wanting to proceed. Our DA's office is wanting to proceed here. They are well aware that if Jackson, wants to proceed there, obviously they can as well. So I can't say if they've spoken for sure. Okay. Thank you all very much.
I want to talk about something. I was looking it up while they were speaking on this last one. And in Louisiana, capital murder is basically the same as first-degree murder. And it can lead to life in prison with the possibility of the death sentence. Whereas second-degree murder is life without the possibility of parole in a hard labor prison. And then you go down another level. Manslaughter is 40 years in hard labor. But if the victim is under 10 years old, then it's 10 to 40 years without the possibility of parole in a hard labor prison, which leads me to look up something, and just bear with me. And before anyone asks, I'm sure you probably know this, but we know Louisiana has the death penalty. I've also confirmed that Mississippi as well has the death penalty. I thought it was interesting that Mississippi had said, in the Jackson, Mississippi had said they will be charging Callihan. And I thought that they had said for the baby's death, which leads us to believe that the baby wasn't unalived at the home. Okay. This is an article from March of 2024, so this year. And it says Louisiana is one of several states passing punitive measures in response to public fears. For decades, Louisiana had the nation's highest rate of incarceration, and given that the U.S. is among the most carceral countries on the planet, the state arguably spent some 20 years as the prison capital of the world. Louisiana lost that distinction by a hair after a series of 2007 reforms successfully shrank the prison population by a third. In recent years, it's been jockeyed back and forth with a few states for the title. But prison capital of the world is that sentence is like that statement is likely to regain after state legislators sent a suite of punitive changes. The new laws would end up with the possibility of parole for most new convictions and increase how much the new laws would end the possibility of parole for most new convictions and increase how much of a sentence a person must serve before being released for good behavior, from 35% of the sentence to 85%. The changes also do away with some of the tools local prosecutors had for undoing wrongful convictions, which are more common in Louisiana than in the rest of the United States. Criminal justice reform advocates have pushed back on the legislation. This is in 2023, fewer than 400 people, or about 1% of the state's prisoners, were granted parole. If any of you guys are familiar with my channel, Louisiana is a state that I do several parole hearings on. I'm actually starting another channel that has nothing but parole hearings. I've got a few on this channel, but I definitely plan to do more. There's also evidence that getting rid of parole alongside time reductions for good behavior behind bars, making prisons more dangerous by removing the incentives for people to pursue rehabilitation programs and avoiding disciplinary violations. That makes sense. But let's see. Another new Louisiana law mandates that 17-year-olds accused of crimes be charged as adults. Let's see. The package of laws included other components that may not directly increase the prison population. This includes authorizing, but are designed to sign a tough approach to crime. So this includes authorizing electrocution and nitrogen gas as an execution method and making public the criminal records of minors accused of certain crimes. In total, the new suite of laws likely makes Louisiana the most punitive justice system in the nation, with harsher penalties than it had even before the partisan reforms passed in 2017. The new changes will bring a substantial cost to the taxpayers. Here's a look at the approved bills, which now head to the desk of his thing. So the death penalty. They were seeking to resume death row executions after a 14-year pause. The legislature passed a bill that adds the use of nitrogen gas and electrocution as methods to carry out the death penalty. Currently, 58 people sit on Louisiana's death row. No executions are scheduled at the moment. Like most states that have capital punishment, Louisiana has relied on lethal injection. But amid legal battles and challenges over the drugs involved, some states have explored other methods. Proponents of expanding the allowed electrocution method says it's past time for the state to uphold contractual obligations between victims' families and the state. Opponents question the legality of the proposed methods, saying that they could amount to cruel and unusual punishment. You guys think that like this guy had already said he wanted the death penalty? And me, that's like taking the chicken way out. I look at it like, oh, if that's what he wants, is that what we're going to give him? So he can, yes, he's going to lose his life, but if he has that or stuck in prison, maybe that's what he prefers. If he instead of being life in prison, he'd rather be executed. I don't want to give him what he wants. If for him, it's almost like, let's look at the individual and see which one is going to bother them the most. Like, I wish they could give them a test that says, okay, we need you to take this quiz. You know how when you go in for a job interview, they have you take this personality quizzes or whatever? Let's say if they had a quiz designed for this, and you figure out in the quiz what the person that's being charged with the crimes, you figure out which would be more damning to them, to be stuck in prison for life or being put to death. And then you go for the charge, and I know that's not the way it works, and you go for the charge that they don't want. That'd be nice, huh? Because I don't want to give the guy what he wants. So, yeah. Louisiana is tough. They're tough on law. And I think that Mississippi is going to work with Louisiana. I mean, you got to remember, Louisiana and Mississippi are neighboring states. So they've probably worked together quite a bit. And now to say that the counties have worked together, maybe not, but I just feel like it's one of those things to where neighboring states are going to work with each other more often, and they're going to do what's best for the crime victims' families that are left. I would like to see how that it's almost like it's a back room discussion that we don't get to be privy to, and I'd love to be part of that. Is Mississippi tough on crime? According to an article on June 6, 2023, it said that Mississippi has higher incarceration rates compared to national averages. The easy way out is to simply assert that Mississippians are more prone to criminal activity than other Americans. Well, that is just wrong. Because I know a lot of, I'm on the border of Mississippi and Alabama, and I would like to disagree with that. Now, Mississippi has a 3-strike law, which I don't know if that would even apply in this case. In an article dated May 18th of 2022, it says new crimes and harsher penalties waste taxpayer dollars without any contribution to public safety. Mississippians need data-driven policies that are smart on crime. The vast majority of people who go to prison have a mental illness, substance use disorder, or traumatic brain injury. We need laws that connect Mississippians with the mental health care necessary to keep our communities safe. The one bill that did fail was, the one bill that did pass was the bill that allowed first-degree murder to apply when the unlawful distribution of certain substances is the proximate cause of someone's death. So in drug deals, the death penalty is a highly controversial topic with strong arguments on both sides. In 1984, the Mississippi legislature partially amended lethal gas as the state's form of execution. The new amendment provided that individuals who committed capital punishment crimes after the effective date of the new law and who were subsequently sentenced to death thereafter would be executed by lethal injection. On March 18th of 1998, the Mississippi legislature amended the manner of execution by finally removing the provision lethal gas as the alternate form of execution. I would think that they're going to go hard on this. Now, they were talking about a capital murder case of state versus borderline in that other press conference. He said that was the last capital one. And they did. He was sentenced to death for the murder. And it was a man who he killed his stepdaughter. So it was a child involved. So I can just see them going after this. Where's this guy at today? Let's see. What's his name? Let's look at this case and see where it's at. A convicted S offender who confessed to strangling his 12-year-old stepdaughter and leaving her partially clothed body in a wooded area of Livingston Parish in 2002 has been executed. He was executed in 2010. So he was only on death row for 8 years. He was 47 years old. The victim's name was Courtney LeBlanc. He kidnapped her at knife point. Just before his execution, he apologized to LeBlanc's mother, uncle, and sister who witnessed the execution, and he asked for their forgiveness. He said, "I'm sorry. I don't know if that brings any closure or peace. It should never have happened, but it did, and I'm sorry." His eyes red-rimmed from crying. He said, "I'd like to apologize to my family and tell them that I love them." It was Louisiana's first execution since 2002. Bordelon's lawyer, Jill Kraft, said he became the first person in Louisiana to successfully refuse a death sentence appeal since the death penalty was reinstated more than 3 decades ago. When he asked to waive his appeal, he said he would commit the same crime again if ever given the chance. Whoa. On parole following, he was on parole following R conviction. Y'all know what R stands for. He abducted her on November the 15th of 2002 from his estranged wife's trailer with a knife from the kitchen, took her to Mississippi. Oh, this is interesting. We've got 2 states involved again. Took her to Mississippi where he forced her to perform horrible acts on him, then drove back to Louisiana and strangled her. So she did die in Louisiana. When LeBlanc's body was found 11 days later, she was wearing only a pair of shorts and 1 tennis shoe. Bordelon led police to her body in a wooded area by the Amite River in Livingston Parish, about 20 miles from Baton Rouge. "I took Courtney and told her if she screamed or hollered or tried to get away, I was going to kill her." That's what he said in a video confession tape that they played at his trial. He met with his family at the Angola prison before his execution. I don't care what he ate. You know what they said when they announced that he was gone? So the parole, or not the parole, what do they call it? The prison guards there and the governor, whoever stands there and makes that call when they're executing someone, it said at 6:32 p.m., Kane said that we now pronounce Gerald Bordelon dead. We've sent his soul for final judgment. His mother released a statement. They were close to the little girl, too. They said the Bordelon fought an insurmountable problem in his psyche his entire life. Bordelon has had 2 prior felony convictions for SA and was sent to a psychiatric treatment in 1979 after being accused of R and kidnapping. He pled guilty to sexual battery in 1982 and was convicted of R and crimes against nature in 1990. He was on parole when he met the mother of the little girl over the internet and married her a year later. Y'all, were you guys watching that video that I did yesterday? And it was revolving around the case of the little 12-year-old in Houston that had been murdered. And that human trafficking agent was on there talking about the women, the mothers, letting these men in their lives. I don't think that was the case in this, in that. I hope that didn't offend anybody, because I'm pretty certain that wasn't the case, or I know that wasn't the case in Jocelyn's death. But in this case right here, the one that we're speaking of on Bordelon, it was, and it could possibly be in this case here where the Brunettes are involved. And that is women letting men come around their children, or just women not having enough self-respect to stay away from men that have been charged with crimes. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that she's going to be looking them up or anything, but you can Google people these days. You can see if they've been in prison. I don't know. If you have kids, maybe you have the responsibility to do that criminal background search on somebody, you know? I know my parents got divorced when we were in our early teens, and my mother would not bring anybody around the house. They had to have been, when she started dating, she had to have been dating someone for a really long time before we even got to meet him. Like, we knew all about him by the time we got to meet him because she had told us about him. You know what I mean? So I think that women just have to be really, ugh. It said that the Louisiana Parole Board officials said an officer spoke with Cock, the woman of the little girl in this case of borderline, before the marriage and notified her that he was a convicted offender. But and after the case was over with, she was actually convicted of child abuse in 2003 for failing to keep him away from her children. After he was caught in 2002, he was part of an attempted jail escape. It failed, though. It says 83 other people remain on death row now in Louisiana. Anyway, I just thought that would be interesting to find out about the different laws and whatever. Let's go into some more footage. There's another case with another little 4-year-old teen's boyfriend, mom's teen boyfriend, so the mother must be a teen. I love how, have you guys noticed, have any of you guys noticed how YouTube is putting up videos or you know, when you first log on to YouTube and it pops up with like stuff that's new, right? Don't you think that after you've watched a video that should no longer pop up for you to watch again? That irritates the heck out of me. If I've watched it, put something else up in its place. I don't like the way they do that. So let's go to, there's so much going on. So much going on. And you know, the Jennifer Soto case, that's another one where the mother's let in a bad boyfriend. Oh, okay, here's something. One of them was trying to escape. Wait. When they were when they were, I guess, being arrested.
Tonight, the family of 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary is planning to hold a vigil in her honor tomorrow night at sunset.
That is after investigators announced today 2 men are in custody charged with capital murder for killing the little girl and leaving her body in a North Houston bayou.
Anieli Ruiz is live at HPD headquarters in downtown Houston with the very latest in this case. Anieli?
Well, guys, a sigh of relief for this family and the entire community as everyone was shocked to hear about this terrible tragedy. A busy day for officers as they zeroed in on 21-year-old Johan Jose Rangel Martinez and 26-year-old Franklin Jose Peña Ramos. Both men now charged with capital murder in the death of 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungaray.
Como las 4 a 5 de la mañana.
Claudia Escobar, who lives near them, says she heard the loudspeaker at around 4 this morning. She said the loudspeaker in Spanish asked those in the apartment to exit because they had an arrest warrant. This neighbor said officers started arming themselves and they went up to the second floor. One neighbor said one of the men from the apartment jumped out from the balcony, but cops had the place surrounded and they grabbed him. Witnesses shared images of the suspects being questioned outside. as investigators pulled out bags of evidence from the apartment. Today, police said the suspects ate at a restaurant on Northborough late Sunday. They left on foot, met Jocelyn near Kirkendale, and walked to the convenience store. They then all walked to the bridge where she was killed.
They just moved in. They haven't even been here a month.
Neighbors say they didn't really know the two men because they hadn't lived here for long. But one thing they all noticed, the men would sit on the balcony and they said they would make unwanted advances to women as they were passing by. Neighbors still here can't believe that someone would hurt such a beautiful young girl.
It's very emotional because when you're thinking, I live on the 3rd floor, these people are on the 2nd floor. You know, and it's just like, I don't even, there's no emotions here.
Listening to the folks that live there. Annie Ellie, have investigators said how they track these men down?
Video cameras.
Well, investigators say they're still digging and they were able to backtrack from where the body was found and follow the surveillance video several steps behind. But now the biggest question for them and for a lot of people is whether Jocelyn knew these suspects or if this was just a brief encounter. Now, of course, a lot of questions still unanswered, but we hope to learn more also as these suspects attend court. Reporting live, Anayeli Ruiz.
I think she didn't know him. I think she might have seen him at the skate park maybe, but I don't think that she knew him. I mean, there's too much age difference there. Another thing too, I guess they spoke English, okay? Because I was thinking about that. They were both from Venezuela, and they haven't been here that long. So I apologize. I Googled the wrong victim. I've been following both these cases, so. Brunett. Okay, so that was kind of a pre-recorded thing I did. Let me turn off that. I want to talk about this Callihan guy, this crazy guy, and I'd like to discuss what his past is more about. He was 36 years old. Callihan has lived a dark life. This is coming from Unfiltered with Karen. And thank you, Show Poodle. Show Poodle sent this over to me. At 36 years old, Callihan has lived a dark life with several twists and turns, including being in and out of jail, a halfway house, and living on his own until he could no longer make ends meet and became homeless. His criminal past and sister paint a picture of a man who gradually escalated his crimes before resorting to a double murder, kidnapping, and sexual battery arrest. The sister said, my mom messed up my brother, always telling him he was going to be a killer just like his daddy and stuff. She's just awful. But Daniel is his own person. He is his own man. He knows what he was doing. He knows right from wrong. And then it talks about him growing up. It said he was born in September of 1987. He is the oldest of 3 siblings, all half siblings with the same mom. One of his younger sisters was the one explaining their traumatic upbringing, Dixie Kempfield, including the M word by a family member. She said Callihan has been troubled since birth and often chose women who reminded him of their mother. And I guess she kind of gave us a hint as to what the mom's about. Because the girls that he picked do this kind of stuff too. I hate to say this, but it's true. It's women that represent our mom. Our mom was a piece of crap, and she still is. She moved us from home to home, from guy to guy. We went to like 12 schools in 1 year. It was ridiculous. Hempfield says their younger sister was the brother's keeper for a long time. Hempfield recalls Callihan being in jail when they were young adults, then in a halfway house in Amite, Louisiana, until the younger sister signed him out. He spent a good amount of time in Brookhaven, Mississippi, where he lived in a trailer park in 2016. But when he could no longer pay rent and allegedly threatened the landlord, Hempfield said he was kicked out and became homeless. Hempfield admits she did not want Callihan back at her home. She told UWK that he was diagnosed with a She told UWK Unfiltered with Kieran, that he was diagnosed with hallucinations and schizophrenia. He was in 3 rehabs in the past 2 years. Okay, not rehabs, but mental homes that he put himself in. Basically, he did try to get help. I give him that. But the thing is, my brother didn't have nowhere to go. He just needed somewhere to sleep. That's the reason he was doing that, because of that point, he went to these mental homes. You guys, that picture, remember the video we watched yesterday of him walking around? Well, there's a much more longer piece to that video. I'm not going to pull it up because I don't have this girl's permission to pull it up from her channel. So you might want to Google his Ring doorbell camera video of Daniel Callihan. Not now. Wait till we get off the live before you do it. Because it's crazy. He was 36 when he became homeless around Christmas of 2021, prompting Hemphill and her sisters to step in and help. They offered Callihan a trailer on their property in Bogachito, Mississippi. I'm probably saying that wrong. Maybe I can give my brother a fresh start again, because I've tried this before, like 7 or 8 years prior. I moved him in with me back then, and he just instantly started trying to get my baby daddy to hook up with other women and just went and did stuff behind my back, you know. Callihan is 3 years older than her, and she tells UWK there's a reason she distanced herself from him. She said, me and Daniel was split from the age of when I was 9 until I was 18. Basically, when he got taken, we had all gotten separated. So anyways, I told him, look, you can come stay over here at this trailer, but you have to get up in the morning and you have to go find a job. You have to work and you have to provide for yourself. You got free rent and all that over here, and we'll keep the lights on and all that until you start getting your checks in. So during that stay, Hemphill said Callihan dug a big hole in the woods and allegedly suggested it was for her boyfriend, the father of her son. She's not saying that like metaphorically. She says he dug a big hole in the woods for her boyfriend, the father of her 2 sons. Did I ever think for a second that my brother was going to ask me if he could kill my baby daddy so he could have the woods and have my house? No, I didn't really take him seriously either when he said it. But when he did mention it to me a couple of times, I was like, I don't want my baby daddy to die. I was like, there's no way I could live with that. And also, my kids would be devastated. I was like, I can't let you do that. He was like, oh, I was just joking. Hemphill recalls a very cold night when Callihan asked to sleep on her enclosed back porch instead of the trailer. That night, she heard him crying loudly in his sleep. I heard crying like it was devastating crying, like it couldn't have been fake. He was asleep, but he was having a nightmare. Like he was kind of jerking, but he was just crying, you know? I grabbed a broom and I poked him with it, and he jumped up out of his sleep. He scared the mess out of me. Okay. And he just broke down and he was like, Sissy, I messed up. I can't stop having these night terrors. And I'm like, why are you having night terrors? And he says, I can tell you, I think I messed up. I was like, it didn't bother me at first, but I can't stop with the night terrors. He told, his sister told UWK that Daniel Callihan finally confessed to allegedly killing a man around early 2022. He was like, I killed this man, Sissy. And I was like, what man? So at that point, I figured if I acted kind of cool about the situation, he would tell me more. I was like, so you really killed someone? And I was like, that's wild. He was like, I mean, he deserved it. Don't get me wrong. He was like, but dude, I don't think I was going to have night terrors like this. I'm sorry if I get I'm reading it just as she wrote it. Mamas always get the blame. Age ain't nothing but a number. What's going on? Yeah, right? Prison is not too hard. So instantly, wait. She says she remembers trying to ask who the man was, and all she got out of her brother was that it was someone from the other side of the county. She says she went back inside her home and started to piece together the conversation she just had. So instantly I'm like, oh God, is he telling the truth or is he playing with me? And I didn't think for a second that he was playing with me because that was pretty freaking real. And I know he breaks into houses, and I know everybody that comes in his life, he messes over. He's just a demonic person. You know, I wonder how much this Victoria chick is involved. If she just got messed up with him because she was associated via drugs or something. But the fact that they pinned those charges on her, of the kidnapping and the murder, I'm just kind of, I don't know. Hang on, I need a sip of soda before I finish reading this. So a few days later, she says the family was sitting outside around a bonfire when the song "Murder on My Mind" came on. My brother was hanging from a tree over a fire. I'm not joking you. And he said, yeah, that's why Estes got what he got. Oh, wow. You go unfiltered with Kieran. I'm going to pull this site up, you guys, because I want to show y'all this. It's unfiltered with Kieran. She's out of Louisiana. I think she's like an independent independent reporter. So I want to hang on. I'm pulling up the website right now so I can show you guys this picture. So of course this is who we're talking about. And this, let's open this in another. Oh, you guys, should we do a deep dive? Or has Kieran already done it? So she said she instantly froze and turned to her, I hate the way she says her baby daddy, her husband, her boyfriend. And he turned and looked at me, and I kind of looked at him and I said, oh, my stomach hurts. I got to go inside to use the bathroom. I Googled missing man in the area, and I'm not kidding. My whole life was in shock. It came up to find Jonathan Paul Estes, then a missing man. Hemphill claims she tried to turn him in, trying to turn her brother into multiple law enforcement agencies, but they dismissed her as a basket case and crazy. Well, yeah, if she was yelling and screaming like she was on the news report, I could see that. But still, the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations told her they needed physical evidence. Hopefully, somebody out there that's investigating this Jonathan Paul Estes, this person, pays attention to this. She said, my brother's ready to turn himself in as long as y'all take him to the FBI so he can tell you about the missing man thing, that he has something to do with killing. He texts me back and he says, tell him I'll pick him up tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And I'm like, really? Is that how this works? I'm like, y'all have fugitives on the run, and when they're ready to turn themselves in, you just don't get them till tomorrow at noon, right? Like, that just sounded weird to me. So then he ended up threatening me and telling me he could put me in jail for feeding a fugitive and all this stuff. I said, look, my brother has been supposedly wanted for 7 freaking months, and Lincoln County will not come pick him up. Wow. Okay. The sister says her warnings that Daniel. I'm sorry. I didn't change the tab. Is that better? The sister says that her warnings that Daniel would continue his behavior went unheard. She eventually cut him out of her life. Then on June 12th, he contacted her via Facebook for an emergency, claiming to need money for a flat tire. Hempfield suspected he was lying as he didn't own a car, but he told her that he was borrowing a friend's car. Guys, maybe this is where the car comes in. This is the first time I've thought about this. I gotta tell you, my light bulb just came on. I guess it's been asleep. Victoria, it was Victoria's car, right? So is that the only way she's affiliated? Is because was she just driving him, or was she was found over in Mississippi though, correct? Yeah. Let me look in the chat really quick. You said you weren't sure about something because of the age difference. That's what. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Barbara, if you're paying attention, and Jean, Do you guys know what area that Cox was arrested in? Was she arrested in Louisiana or Mississippi? I think it's Mississippi. Okay, so back to this, what she was saying. Uh, so he was suspected. She suspected that he was lying about the flat tire because he didn't own a car, but he told her that he was borrowing a friend's car. He also told her that Victoria Cox, the woman charged alongside him for murder, was bringing him a jack and to send her money to buy the tool. So Barbara says, I'm going to try and not go so harsh on the sister. I know. I mean, I'm not trying to be. She was trying to do something right, and you can't blame her for her upbringing. You can't blame her for what her parents did to her. Um, you got to give her credit for trying to do the right thing. So Hempfield says that Callihan told her he was in Lacombe, but when she was messaging with Cox, she told Hempfield that she was headed to meet Callihan in Macomb, Mississippi. So was the sister messaging with Victoria Cox? Did she know her as well? Hempfield says she refused to answer any of her brother's calls through Facebook because she did not want to fall for his games again. Now, though, she asked herself, had she answered, could it have saved the little girl's life? Oh, she's probably beating herself up. Bless her heart. That's not good. On Thursday morning, Hempfield saw news about Callie Brunett's murder and the kidnapping of her daughters. She immediately called the Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office, reporting that her brother was in Macomb. At this very moment, I'm blank. She was the reason he was caught. I burst out in tears, and then I'm angry, and then I'm started laughing, and then I'm angry, and then I start crying. And I know people are tired of hearing me talk about it, but I'm so freaking angry because you don't understand. This could have been prevented if nothing else has ever been able to be prevented before in my life. This could have been prevented. Now, Kieran says that UWK did reach out to the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations for comments in regards to the Jonathan Estes case and Callihan's alleged involvement. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigation reviewed the statements and reports submitted by the sister of Daniel Callihan regarding his connection to the missing person of Mr. Estes, Jonathan Estes, in 2018. This is an open investigation, and MBI is still seeking evidence corroborating Callihan's involvement. Anyone with this information can submit it to mbitips@dps.ms.gov. Well, let's hope that whoever's working on that case is going to go in there and talk to him while he's in jail, singing, as Gene put it, singing like a canary. Callihan is now locked up in jail in Mississippi, awaiting a first appearance and whether a bond will be set. No, I think that's already been okay. He will then have to be extradited to Louisiana to begin facing charges in Louisiana, where he's looking at murder for Callie Brunett, among other charges. His accomplice, Victoria Cox, was denied bond for the murder, and a $500,000 bond has been set for the sexual battery charges. I like this chick. She's on top of it. She's been Kiran Chawla, 20 years of experience in journalism. She said, I ventured off to launch a new concept, 100% digital media news, and I called it Unfiltered with Kieran. What started a single person launching a dream has now turned into a team with extremely dedicated journalists. We as a team are proud to serve each and every one of you. So you go, girl. Thank you for bringing it to our attention, and hopefully we'll get you some, let's see, here's her website. Maybe we'll get you some subs. She's on Instagram, Twitter, X, all that good stuff. And she's done a lot of cases, but it looks like a lot of them are local to Louisiana. All right. I'm going to go off of that one. I did think that was important to read what the sister said because this was a detailed report. I don't remember seeing anything this detailed as far as the interrogation, not the interrogation, but the interview with the sister. So Barbara says in regards to Victoria, yes, she was in South Jackson area, and that is the wooded area most family. And that is the woods, and most family inherited it in multiple acres. They have 100 acres of land, and another family with multiple, and nobody wants to buy it. Okay. So who owns that? You're saying Victoria's family owns it? Or you're just saying you know that about the land that they were found in. All right. Because there was a question mark as to why there. But I thought it was because he had a flat tire. Jean says, yeah, Victoria was picked up in Jackson, Mississippi. All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. All right. Well, I've been on over an hour. I kind of want to keep, I've got so many things to talk about, y'all. There's so many things I want to go over with you guys. But I think I want to hold it to just each topic at a time. So I might be putting up some multiple stuff. I have been away from my computer, my laptop, out doing stuff for the last month. So I haven't been posting as much. And man, it's showing up on my views now. Let's see. Land is worthless, so poor people stay there. Oh, I gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. If you have not watched the video I put up yesterday about the case with the 12-year-old from Houston, Jocelyn, please go and watch that because I've got the presser where after the guys were arrested. And then I've also got a nice little, I like to call my little sleuthing on the map of where they went, how they met up with her, that kind of stuff. So I spent a good bit of time on that, and I'd appreciate it if y'all go and check it out if you haven't already. Also, on your way out, if you don't mind hitting your like button, that is so well appreciated. It is, I'm in dire need of support right now. So I appreciate y'all. Be safe, stay well, and have a great weekend. Thanks again, Barbara, for all your coffees, honey. I appreciate you. And thank you, Jean, for all your emails. And thank you, Laura, for modding. We appreciate you, honey. Y'all be good.